Do you like money? If so, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the Real Estate 401k Show with your hosts Ryan Gerdes, Mike Weinstein, and Justin Frederick, helping you build a legacy of wealth through real estate. Powered by the Real Estate 401k Group at West USA and the Frederick team with Fairway Mortgage. NMLS number 625918.
Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Justin Frederick. I got Ryan Gerdes down at the end, and I got Jonathan Villatoro. Is that right?
That's correct.
Dang it, I'm so good.
Nailed it.
With RYS Development. If you listened to the last episode, it was not RYS Development. It's actually RYS Development. So we appreciate having you on. The topic for the week is just ADUs or casitas, whatever you want to call them. A lot of just great opportunities out there, and we're very excited and proud of our partnership with RYS Development and being able to offer this product. And if you missed last Monday's episode, it was really talking about building an ADU or a casita for multi-generational use. But I want to get into kind of like the investment strategy. And there's two topics, Jonathan, I want to jump into. The one of I've got a house and I got the room for a casita. I want to build one and take advantage of either the short-term market, such as VRBOs, Airbnbs. Ryan and I have been pushing a lot of people more towards the midterm, the traveling nurses and things like that. There's a great opportunity to build one, increase the value of your house, but then have that income coming in to pay down what you paid for the ADU.
100%. And I agree that most people should be doing that right now, because at any day the market can turn and you lose that equity. Essentially, it's monopoly money. So you can use it right now and build an ADU, or you can essentially lose it overnight and have nothing. So, I mean, we're trying to urgently emphasize this is what's going on right now, guys. So take advantage while you can before the government steps in.
I think the other thing that you have to take into consideration. So I own a big home in Scottsdale, Phoenix, and I reach out and partner with you guys at RYS Development. You build me an ADU. I know my intention is to turn that into some sort of income producing unit, whether it could be long-term, it could be a long-term rental, it could be midterm, it could be short-term, but then I may not want to sell the house. I got to move and I may not want to sell the house. Now I technically actually have two short-term rental units. What's the process like when we're sitting down, we're looking at my piece of property and go, hey, one day both of these are going to be a short-term, solution here. I've got to position it accordingly so that it's just not awkward when I got two separate parties hanging out.
Okay. I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Well, I think he's talking about the living space,
the layout,
and how you have a single-family home and then you got the ADU. How do we keep them to where they're not running into each other in the backyard or the front yard when you're building that?
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, okay.
Appreciate your help on that.
So we'd actually offer the ability to kind of do a segment where we can just kind of partition the backyard, and there's a separate entrance if we wanted to do an Airbnb style or short-term rental style, where they don't have to go into your backyard and affect your family. It's just kind of blocked off, if you will, with the little pony wall or whatever you want to put there. Does that answer your question?
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect, because my fear is that people aren't thinking through that process. I know you can do it. It's just a matter of getting that word out. If these are my intentions, and I now one day think that I might have two short-term rental units, just put that into perspective when you're actually doing the site plan.
100%.
So I mean, we kind of had a little bit of issues because when we first started doing takeoffs for our build, Katie Hobbs hadn't jumped in at the time, so we had to do a bunch of creative things to get our guest house on there, and we've had to do a bunch of different creative stuff in the past, whether it be connecting roof lines and or ripping out a stove, because that was one of the elements of the litmus test that made it so it was a non-permitted guest house, especially when we're dealing with VA and FHA loans. They're the ones that were most up our asses about that. So now, especially if you're building, then you have all the runway to be to do whatever you want. And sometimes they'll even let you go up to 2 ADUs on property rather than just one, which provides even more runway, especially if you have the lot coverage to deal with it. What I do want to talk about a little bit on this, and I'm sure you're probably going to bring it up, Mike, is how that affects financing when we're dealing with it strictly as an investment property, and is there opportunities there for DSCR loans, and how you two are going to dance together on the financing side and on the construction side?
Well, DSCR loan is strictly for the purchase or refinance. I mean, we could do a cash out DSCR, but we're not getting into the renovation side, so we're not going to be able to use the proposed ADU to calculate what the fair market rent is, if that makes sense. Now, as far as the financing side goes, if we're using this ADU as an investment portion, whether it's short-term, long-term, mid-term, we're going to be able to use a fair market rent. Now, currently with conventional and FHA loans, the fair market rent is going to be established by long-term rental. They're not going to
no air DNA on that.
No air DNA on those properties. Right. Now, some way that we can get around that and use a primary residence to get more cash out to DSCR would be to use air DNA on that property, because typically we get more income out of it in order to produce more of a loan in order to finance an ADU.
So what if I'm following the 401k plan and I move someone in there and I build the ADU and I'm using it as short term and I have 2 years worth of tax returns backing that up? Can I then turn around and use that as the full short-term rental income if I wanted to refinance into something that allowed me to use my primary? Let's say I have it under an FHA or VA loan, right? And then I want to refinance out of it so I have my eligibility back after I'm already getting my income.
Well, yeah, if you've already been renting it out for 2 years, absolutely. It only takes one. We have it rented out for 1 year, short term. Yeah, or long term, we can use your Schedule E and use that to calculate income. Now, you're probably not going to use it as a Schedule E because your home's going to be your primary residence. You'll probably have to do like a Schedule C, just a sole proprietor making a business out of it. And then show that income, and no matter what, we'd be using that income. But keep in mind, what you're writing off is going to take away from your net income on that property.
Fair. Okay.
All right, we are in studio with Jonathan Villatoro with RYS Development. Our partnership when it comes down to casitas, ADUs, and I'm sure you guys even do like room additions and things like that. So I wanted to just throw that out there. But tell us a little bit about RYS Development.
Okay, so I mean,
if Eric writes one more note and puts it up there, I'm gonna smack him. I can't see it.
Throw Rambo at him.
I don't know if you want to smack him.
We've never had a director.
He smacks back, dude. That's how I know.
We got Ryan's brother in the studio. Looks exactly like him. Do you think Mike would do all right?
It's scary.
Do it.
I dare you. A double dog dare
my
you.
kids say,
we'll turn the cameras around for you.
As my kids say, do it. You won't. So tell us a little bit more about RYS Development.
Okay, so RYS Development originally, my background, I came from Vegas. I had a construction background doing mostly swimming pools. Saw a lot of the money come and go. When I first started looking for my house in 2017, 2018, it was about $300,000. And then I noticed that I had to keep increasing my budget, 400, 500, 600, 700, and I would still be priced out of the market. And then I got up to 800, and I was like, this is ridiculous. There's got to be like a crash or some sort of correction coming soon. So I kind of stepped away from it. And that's when COVID happened, and then they reset the interest rate, so I kind of lost out on that a little bit deal. But with that being said, my mission was simple: affordable housing. Affordable housing solutions. Everybody's priced on the market. Everywhere you look, it's $2,000 a month for rent. It's super simple, right? I mean, why would you buy a 50, 60, 70-year-old home that's dilapidated, that needs work for more money when you can build it brand new and it's like super nice? You don't have any upkeep, any maintenance or anything like that. You can get it smart home, automated, control the thermostat, everything inside there. Like, it's kind of like a no-brainer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, so on that note, most of our 50, 60, 70-year-old homes are pretty much in the middle of the city. And a lot of those areas have been rezoned to have multifamily. So talk to me a little bit about your guys' processes, because if I have that type of zoning, then I would love to have separate meter, have separate access, separate everything. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about what your guys' process is with that.
Good question. So depending on what it's zoned for, you can actually put up to 3 additional units on top of the primary. So I know you mentioned 2. Depending on the square footage of the lot, that's going to determine how many feet you can use. Also, depending on the primary residence's square footage, let's say it's 1,000, you can only do up to 75% of the primary here in Phoenix. So you'd be about 750 square feet with 1,000 primary. So with that being said, depending on how big your primary residence, that's going to affect how many different lots or how many different units you can put on the same lot, depending on the lot. And depending on the municipality, like, I know Tollerson's different than Levine's different than Phoenix, you know what I mean? So
sure.
We just got to call the city, do a little bit of due diligence, but it's super easy. We really get our answers back right away. So
Okay, so it doesn't really affect timeline?
no, not really, no.
Cool.
All right, if you want to be introduced to RYS Development and learn a little bit more about ADUs and casitas and whether your lot, makes sense for it, or whether you're in the market to look for a property to build one on, go ahead and text the word CASITA to 623-AZ-RECON. That's CASITA to 623-AZ-RECON, and or just type the word CASITA in the comments section. So question for both you guys. I don't know which one of you wants to jump in, because this is really where we, Justin, need to start talking about financing. Is if I'm a buyer now and I'm out there looking, I'm specifically wanting to look for a property that may not have a casita or an ADU already on it, but has the space to be able to put one on there. And I'm thinking with you, Jonathan, is while I'm during my inspection period, you probably could do some homework before we get to the end of the inspection period and go, yeah, this property is prime for an ADU. But now I'm out, I see a home that I want to make an offer on, Justin. I want to buy this house, but I also want to get the financing for the ADU. How does that work?
Yeah, so we're going to use a renovation product. I would 100% recommend starting the research on the ADU to begin with. Find out what unit you want, just so we know what we're pricing in there. And then as you're looking at homes, we will go through, this is what this is going to cost you per month. This is what your down payment's going to be based on the overall cost of the home and the ADU put together, and just kind of set expectations correctly. It's absolutely doable. We just need to make sure that you understand what you're getting into. And I think doing that up front is probably the best avenue to go through, because you already know the ADU you want. You already know what all needs to be included in that. And then when you're coming back to me, we already know what the house looks like. So we just consolidate the two, add in the costs, and pump out the plan for you to tell you exactly what you're looking at. And honestly, with having Jonathan available here on this, it's going to make things a lot easier. Rather than having to go through a 60-day close of escrow like we normally ask for on a renovation loan. We already have everything laid out on Jonathan's side with these 5 different options. We can easily put this together, get it approved up front, and move forward. Probably with maybe like a 40-day close of escrow, I think would be adequate in order to get this done. But I think starting off with the ADUs is going to be huge. Just get rid of that, whatever amount of time you need to think on each one, go through them, figure it out, go through the blueprints, talk to Jonathan and his team.
And we can even do that ahead of time. So then when I'm saying to you, Jonathan, you don't want to guess. You don't want to get into, put an offer on a home, inspection period's come and gone, I've closed on the home, then I reach out to you and you're like, you can't quite do what you want to do. Instead of, I think that I would do a 15-day inspection period, and reach out to you. I've already looked at the plans, and you guys can do a little bit of your due diligence and say, yeah, you can do this on this property, you can do that on the property before we get through the inspection period. I think that's a secret right there.
I think 100%. Yeah, to your point, is you need to know, especially the square footage that we're going to be working with, the amount of bedrooms, orientation, all this stuff put in consideration. And then obviously we need to know what to price in. So, I mean,
So as much as advocate I am for this, I do want to play devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah, go.
The financing side. So I've only looked at a few thousand appraisals in my life, right? And generally speaking, additions in ADU value on square footage is not given the same value as it is on the original square footage. So walk me through how this still makes sense over there on that.
It's funny, and of course you're leading me down that road, but I appreciate it. It's funny how when you're doing these renovation loans, how the value works out. I mean, on these renovation loans, we can add a pool. Typically on an appraisal, how much do you see for a pool?
Yeah, you're paying $80,000 for a pool, and then you're maybe getting 35 back on it.
Yeah, it's funny how the appraisal will work out well for an $80,000 pool, and you're getting $10,000 for it on an appraisal,
right?
On a resale appraisal. But when we're going after these renovation loans, it's funny how they work out. And that's all I could say there. I'm not an appraiser. It's just that's kind of how it works out.
Okay, then I've found this property, bought a home is on it. It's perfect for me to put an ADU on it. I go through the renovation loan. I get it all I build it on there. I've moved in my college kid, or I've moved in my grandparents, or I'm renting it out on Airbnb. 10 years down the road, I'm putting a for sale sign up, right? So how does it look then?
And that's not a me question. I think that's a good question for you guys.
Nice job.
Because that's not my lane.
Okay.
So I think go ahead and explain how that looks on your end 10 years from now.
That is one thing that I think that should be discussed addressed over there, because more often than not, when we're trying to break things down on a cost per square footage. Now, when we run into clients that are looking at properties that are just based on price per square footage, this is really where I wanted to go with it. It's the biggest misnomer in real estate. They're going to go over there, they're going to look at a 50-year-old home, and they're going to say, oh, well, that's $500 per square foot. That's not taking into account the age. It's not taking into account the size of the lot. It's not taking into account whether or not there's a pool on it. Well, there's so many different things that help value, right? There could be no garage. There could be a 5-car garage. That being said, when you are breaking down what you are buying, and if you're only looking at cost per square foot, then you are digging a big, massive hole for yourself, because a lot of if we have a 60-year-old originally built home versus a 10-year-old ADU on it, they're going to have two completely different values. And so when you are pricing it out as a seller, you need to make sure that you're working with somebody that does know how to account for those types of costs and those types of value.
But I think I would equate it to almost like solar. You got your two options with solar. You're going to pay cash for solar, or you're going to get a lease or a loan for solar, and you got to figure out what your break-even point is. I don't think, in my opinion, and Jonathan, I could be wrong, I don't think if I just put on an ADU on my property today, I'm getting full value today. It's going to take time and trying to figure out what is that break-even point.
To your point, a lot of people aren't taking consideration, okay, so you're not getting the full amount of equity, but also what about the rental income on top of that? Mm-hmm. And that's perpetuity. So like, obviously rent's only going to go up in price. So inevitably there's going to be a break-even point, and then there's going to be a point where you're just in profit. So people got to take that. It's not just about the equity instantly. Consider that your down payment on your return. But then when you're basically renting it out, Airbnb or whatever you may be doing with it, it's going to increase in value along the way.
Well, I also think that let's go back to the appraisal portion of it. Everything comes down to comparables. As this becomes more common, as long as people are selling their homes for what it's worth, these comparables with the ADUs are only going to help the matter. I think as it is right now, there's not a lot of casitas or ADUs out there in the neighborhoods that we're looking at doing these in. Whereas I feel like in 10 years, I feel like it's going to become more and more common, because I don't feel like we're going to get homes going down in value. And I feel like this is going to be more and more common of an option for families to, whether it is to rent it out for somebody else, but I think it's going to be more common for parents to live with their children, or kids to live with their parents. and act as multifamily homes on that same lot. And I think that will help increase the value of what a casita can bring. I don't have to go through the work. I don't need to figure out what I need. This works perfect for me. I'm going to pay more value for this because it works for us.
Well, that's an answer, not just trying to deflect.
Well, I tried to put it
me.
back on you,
Yeah.
but I had to do that first, and then that's
I had to give you inspiration.
Yes, yeah.
It's all right.
All right, we are with Jonathan Villatoro from RYS Development. We were talking about casitas, ADUs. If you'd like some more information about the strategies behind them, all you got to do is text the word CASITA to 623-AZ-RECON. That's CASITA to 623-AZ-RECON. Jonathan, before I throw it over to you, Eric, what is so pressing? What am I missing? I want to make sure that your one feeling is not hurt. You got it all. Okay, perfect. All right, Jonathan, what are we not asking, and how do you want to finish this out?
I'm just going to say time is money. Everybody that's thinking about doing this, don't wait too long. Don't wait for interest rates to go down. Don't wait for anything. Go now. Especially if you have the equity, the longer you wait, the more opportunity you have in missing. Because like I said earlier, your equity can just disappear overnight.
Yeah, when's your next price reduction?
You know, never.
Yeah,
And I'll say that right now. Never.
Yeah.
We're only going up.
100%.
All right, there you go. We are with Jonathan Villatoro with RYS Development. Again, if you'd like some more information about whether you're looking at buying a property that you can build a casita on, or you got an existing property you're considering building a casita on, all you got to do is text the word casita to 623-AZ-RECON. That's casita to 623-AZ-RECON, or just type the word casita in the comment section.